Absolutely ridiculous, absurd, untrue, defamatory, the craziest claims you could ever imagine.
James Charles has done an aggressive, explosive Twitter rant. Everything is kicked off. So, in terms of scales of how serious this is, we have Notes app apology, we have word apology pasted onto Twitter, and then we have a video apology at the very, very top. James has popped all the way off. And this is regarding something that we actually spoke about a couple of videos ago regarding James Charles being sued by one of his ex-employees. So why don't we just get straight into the video? I'm going to keep this video snappy and focus on the content. So why don't we just get straight into this rant? I'm going to give you the first few minutes of it.
Don't worry, this is not my return to social media. But unfortunately, I am logging in today because I feel as though I am being cornered and have to make yet another public statement. I know people are sick of these. I don't blame you. I'm not even going to bother writing out like a whole notes app thing today. I'm just going to hit record and start talking to you guys one-on-one because there's a lot that I want to talk about, and hopefully whoever wants to listen can just listen. As you guys know, for the past couple of weeks, I have obviously been offline. I've been taking time away to learn, to reflect, to talk to professionals, and most importantly, to try to help better the situation that happened recently in any way that I possibly can. I've been quiet online, but things behind the scenes have not been so quiet. There's a lot going on, and I currently feel as though the situation that I was in is being taken advantage of, and I feel as though I'm being blackmailed, which is why I wanted to film this video today.
There's more of the video, by the way, I'll get to it, but I want to give you a bit of introduction to what's happened so far first. His channel was demonetized on YouTube. He lost his YouTube's original series. He supposedly lost his deal with Morphe, but they're still selling his product and financially benefiting him, I think. There's been a ton of major things happening since these young boys came forward, 16 years old, some of them claiming they were 15 at the time, with photographic evidence of James Charles sending them naked photographs and also threatening messages as well. James finally broke his silence on Twitter. The video is about 7 minutes long. This only happened yesterday, by the way, so the tea is spicy.
Spice. For those who are not aware, for the last 2 years now, I've been dealing with an ongoing lawsuit from one of my previous employees. This is something that I have never spoken about, I've never mentioned, because I wanted to keep it private out of respect for her, and the fact that it's literally an ongoing litigation, but she's now speaking about it, which is just perfect time considering everything else that's going on. My YouTube channel was just starting to take off. I was filming and editing 3 videos a week by myself for my channel, and I really just wanted help, so I hired an editor. This person worked for me and then was later promoted to my producer, which means she was no longer editing, she was helping me film videos and was like my right-hand person for a salary of $72,000 a year. She only worked for me for about 6 months and then was let go, and now I am being sued. The suit is all online, you can read through it if you really want to, but it basically alleges that she was wrongfully terminated, overworked, and underpaid, all of which are untrue. I have a very, very small team. I've always had a small team. There are not many ex-employees because most of my team members have been with me for a really long time now.
Can we just get into something for a second? So James is like, oh, I didn't mention this publicly out of respect for the girl that I'm in the lawsuit with. Like, who are you playing? Like, if someone's suing you for like wrongful termination and all this stuff and it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, like James said it would, why would you do something out of respect for her? But then he says afterwards, and also because it's literally in litigation. But like, part of me was just to be like, just say you didn't want to talk about it because you didn't want to promote her, you didn't want to give her any more exposure. Like, why wouldn't you just be honest at this stage, James? That's just how I felt anyway. I just thought it was strange to be like, oh, out of respect for her. Like, sis, who are you respecting, right? He claims that he was paying her $72,000 a year, but she was only working for 6 months, and what later came out on Twitter, which we'll get onto once we've got through the basics, is that this was actually the pay rise, not the actual normal salary she was getting. So this lady was actually more like James's right-hand man. So she started off as a video editor, but ended up becoming a producer. So she would help him with coming up with the content ideas, getting things moving, organizing things, those sorts of things. And then she wouldn't be physically doing the editing and stuff herself. So she was doing very well for herself. She claims that she was wrongfully terminated, overworked, and underpaid.
The fact that this is like even attempting to become a narrative, it makes me feel like sick to my stomach because it is wildly, wildly untrue, and I am so grateful for the people around me. The case also kind of makes it seem like she's just trying to get back like the wages that she feels like she should have been paid for her work, which I wish were the truth, because in reality this suit is actually for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're not familiar with cases like this, they're unfortunately pretty common in like the entertainment industry, but they usually don't actually make it to court, which may sound weird, but it's for 2 different reasons. The first one being, they are ridiculously long. This was filed 2 years ago. People are only finding out about it like now, but we are not even close to getting an actual court date yet. So it is a long process and quite a headache. Because it's so long, reason number 2 is it gets really expensive really fast for the defendant, which in this case is myself. So most of the time the defendant will settle, which basically means paying an amount of money to the person making the suit to just drop it and move on. And I'm not going to act like this was not an option for me. Settling is oftentimes a good option, a smarter option, because it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's a lot less of a headache. She is suing me, she has sued other YouTubers in the past, but settling is no longer an option that's on the table, and I'm going to tell you why. This past week I was reached out to for comment about a news article that is coming soon, and I learned that she is talking to the press about this lawsuit and what it was like to work for me as an employee. However, she's adding a ton of absolutely ridiculous, absurd, untrue, defamatory, the craziest claims you could ever imagine. And in my opinion, it's an attempt to pressure me into making a much higher settlement offer. Once again, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. These claims range everything from I was so lazy, she had to force me to get out of my bed and brush my teeth, and without her I would have never made a single video or a single dollar, but also things much more serious and disgusting, such as that I used to say the N-word around her all the time. The worst part about all of this, though, is that if I were, in some universe, to make this ungodly amount of settlement money, if I was to pay it, I'm sure a lot of you are smart enough to take a guess as to what would happen to these claims. They would be retracted and they would magically go away. I can't believe, I can believe this, I shouldn't say that, I just don't want to believe this. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. This is just disgusting. Contrary to popular belief, I have never, ever paid anybody to speak or to not speak about me, and this will not be the first time that I do it. It just won't. And unfortunately, at this point, my only option is to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law and hope that one day, whenever it does get to a courtroom in the future, justice will be served. Until that happens one day, we are dealing with the court of public opinion, which is a very different situation. And it's a court that is not on my side right now, which is just frustrating because, like I mentioned earlier, I feel as though this is all just to pressure me. There has been 2 years of timed opportunity to speak about any of this stuff. But now it's happening, and now we're going to the press, and now we're doing this back and forth. It feels so wrong to me. All I can hope and pray is that one day justice is served and you guys are able to see me for who I really am and this situation for what it really is. That's all that I can hope.
James is wishing not to settle in court. He says that settling would be it's not an option anymore. I think they said that she's asking for too much. I think that was what he said. I think he described it as an ungodly amount. And James wrapped up this rant by, of course, saying that he would need to deal with the public court of opinion, which is very true. The only thing that's difficult here is that, if it wasn't James Charles, if it was anyone else, there would be more credibility behind what's being said about this being an opportunistic lawsuit, which is how it sounds like James is trying to describe it. Absolutely. And you would genuinely actually sympathise and consider that to be an option. But because it's James, and because of everything that we've seen so far, and almost an inability, but so far we have seen things happen with James where he just hasn't been honest about things, and he'll say things and we can literally prove it wrong. Like he was saying he lost his Morphe deal because of the fake stories that were being circulated about him and the young boys. It was the real stories that have been front page headlines, right, with the actual hardcore evidence. And I think Morphe did something similar as well. They were kind of a bit wishy-washy with it. So there's too many people protecting this child predator. I'm sorry, can we just say that? Honestly, I'm not okay with this. I'm happy this is actually an issue now, because in the past this hasn't been an issue when this has happened, and James Charles has actively defended people that have been in this exact same type of scandal. Figures. James said he would come back when the time is right. But also, can we just talk about the fact he opened up this video by saying, he does this whole PR speech of so I've been working really hard on myself and self-reflecting and speaking to professionals. And it's just such a speech. I'm listening to it and I'm like, is anyone listening to this and thinking this is legit? This is just... It's just the same thing of James saying over and over again with his apologies. He just has this pre-worded apology of and I'm going to continue to reflect on this and speak to professionals and make sure that I can better understand my issues and move forward past this. And it's sis, this is not the first time this has happened, are we really going to go around in circles like this? Anyway, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm getting a bit spicy today. I need my spicy hat because it's honestly just too much for me. It's honestly aggroing me, because if you just look at this as an isolated apology, it kind of makes sense. But when you apply it with context to the whole situation, I'm finding it ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous from start to finish, the way he approaches and talks about these things. I don't want that to sound mean, but I just feel like he has an opportunity to be straight up about things. For example, like I didn't talk about the lawsuit because I didn't want to feed into it. I didn't want to give the girl promotion. I didn't want to bring PR and press attention to it because it's embarrassing. But instead it's, oh, out of respect for her, I didn't want to talk about it. What? In the same breath, he also is basically implying that she's opportunistic. He was like, oh, well, she's already sued someone and now she's suing me, so this is obviously a thing. That's what she said. And so it makes it sound like he's implying that she's opportunistic publicly to thousands of people on Twitter, but then he's also starting it by saying, I didn't want to talk about it out of respect for her. So it's just very confusing. Anyway, the whole context of this was that the insider that does tons of exposures on the beauty community recently, you're welcome, insider. And they basically were doing an article about James Charles. They reached out to him for a statement because they're doing an exclusive with this girl to talk about what her lawsuit is about and how she was involved with James Charles. And it looked like it was going to be a hit piece. From the sound of things, from what James Charles said, it sounds like it was a hit piece, really coming for him. This girl, from what James said, alleging that she, you know, brushed his teeth in the morning and got him out of bed and he wouldn't have made anything without her. You know, it's really difficult because James is good at weaving these sorts of stories, but the truth behind them is very difficult because I just don't feel like James has the credibility there now at all. And it's really difficult in that situation. I'm not willing to just say he's a liar because I don't have grounds to say that, but I'm also, there will be more credibility in a stranger telling me this story than James telling me this story. Do you see what I mean? Because every situation that James is in, we see him as an antagonist, as the one doing wrong, messaging these underage boys, sending them, you know, these photographs. But then he plays the victim and words it, you know, in certain ways, and is very manipulative in the way that he approaches it and deals with it. And it's because something can happen and you see very clearly something happen, but the way he recounts it is so different to try and convince people of a different narrative. And I think this is probably the first time that James has ever not got away with this, right? Anyway, with regards to the Insider article, the reason that we know and guess this is about the Insider's article is they didn't actually give a statement, but Kat Tenbarge gave a statement on Twitter, who's verified she is a poster for the Insider, and she said in an exclusive tweet, literally cannot believe this. Okay, well, yeah, you paid your creative director $72K after a raise. We'll start there since you're the one putting it out more soon. Because he said in his thing she was being paid $72,000. James never specified that was the raise that she was given. We don't know how much she was actually paid over that 6-month period. That raise might have been right at the end. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's all good to say, I paid her like $10,000 a year up until the last month and then I started paying her $72,000 a year. It's like, do you see what I mean? I think she was doing well for herself on 72K, but it's also suspicious. We don't really understand what's happened fully because she claims that she had a head injury, she was off work, and James said that she wasn't taking the job seriously. But at the same time, you know, we have to give a fair and balanced argument. There may have been a situation where James did feel that she was flaky. He might have grounds to say that, but again, we really don't know. In this situation, James is not in a position to come on social media and blast receipts. He's in too much hot water already. This is very convenient timing for this lawsuit and for her to not only be dealing with it privately, but also to be posting about it publicly and doing articles with the Insider. If she settled for $100,000, $200,000 with the previous girl, for example, this is almost her pathway to wealth, right? This is her way to almost buy a house if this series of behavior that James describes is true, right? So we just have to be balanced here. Like, it's not just James that she's come after. There's already been someone. She's coming for round two. She's attacking James and coming after him and doing these articles and going, you know, legally with quite a heavy bombardment at a critical time in James's career when it would be sensible for him to just settle. But obviously she said it's an ungodly amount. So I think there's sides of the story that we need more information from. We could absolutely sit down and go through the lawsuit, but this is one of those things where I think we need to be in their phone, seeing what they were saying to each other, what the conversations looked like. It would be great to talk to people that were involved, but at the same time, getting someone that's credible, again, to do that isn't, you know, biased or paid off or invested interest would be very difficult to find. She also said, blackmail is a criminal allegation and a really crazy and stupid one to make. So definitely something that could absolutely complicate his litigation that he's involved in now. Yeah, I don't know, but I guess he was just over this girl and this situation. I don't know, but you know, James is just one of those people. Usually he's the one that catches other people out on timing and getting them emotional so he can take advantage of situations, just in my opinion. And it seems like people have done it to him this time, and it's like, ooh, sis, You got a taste of your own medicine. You know, it's like law of attraction. If that's what you behave like, that's what you attract. And it's like, ooh, spicy. Let's read some comments online about this. So, Slow Willingness 3640 said, does anyone else find it odd that James always claims the other person is absolutely lying? No matter the story, James is always the good guy and never admits doing anything wrong. Just like how he now claims his former Twitter account was hacked. Will he ever take personal responsibility? Very interesting. Chirotechnic said, how is James always the victim? Yeah, especially even in the situation where he sent these 15 and 16-year-old boys, alleged 15, but 16-year-old boys, naked photographs, and then turned around and said that, like, he was the victim because he couldn't get a boyfriend, or he was embarrassed, or he was desperate. Like, what? Psychwork 7002 said, I too hope and pray that one day justice is served, James. Very interesting. Hipmic said, if he is in an ongoing legal battle, why is he digging himself into a deeper hole by tweeting? Let the lawyers take care of it, FFS. It's true, but you know what? James has built all this wealth very quickly. He's living in this big mansion. You could see in the video he's filming in some big-ass back garden. But, you know, it's interesting. You know, you make it quickly, but I think some people will lose it quickly as well, depending on the behaviour. And who knows if James will be one of those people. Anyway, I want to know what you think about this. I have another video coming tomorrow regarding James's Twitter account, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoy the video, be sure to smash the like button every time you do. A titty flies into space. If you enjoy the video, be sure to consider subscribing. I do post videos here 5 days a week. Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you for watching. It's been a lot of fun, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.